1934.
I don't care about it.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody. Before we start the town meeting, we have 3 public hearings, so I'll begin with that. The first is a public hearing on ordinance O-19-9, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach, Maryland, adopting the annual budget for the Water Park Fund and the Town of Chesapeake Beach for the fiscal year, July 1, 2019 to June 30 of 2020. Is there anybody in the audience that has any comments on this ordinance? Hearing none, is there a motion to close the public this?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Second is ordinance O-19-10, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach, adopting the annual budget for the utility fund of the Town of Chesapeake Beach for the fiscal year, July 1, 2019 to June 30 of 2020, and setting rates, charges, fees related to water and sewer service by the town. Anybody in the audience have any comments on this ordinance? Hearing none, is there a motion to close?
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Lastly, ordinance O-19-11, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach, repealing Chapter 185, minimum livability, and enacting Chapter 162, Housing Code, to establish property maintenance standards for properties in the town and to establish a rental licensing program incorporating regular inspections. Does anybody in the audience have any comments on this? Hearing none, I believe the Council Vice President, Ms. Bodine, has a question or two.
Yes, I do. Thank you. My first question concerns section 162-8. A, and it says any violation of any provision of this chapter, so forth, will be subject to a fine of $200 a day. And in the next sentence, it says each day's failure to comply with any such provision shall constitute a separate violation. And so I was speaking with the attorney and with our code enforcement officer regarding whether or not this means that those fines of $200 a day would be concurrent, from the issuance of the citation. And I think they may both have comments on that question.
Yeah, so the first sentence, it just says subject to a fine of $200. It doesn't say a day. It just says subject to a fine of $200. So the second sentence, each day's failure to comply with any such provision shall constitute a separate violation, is pretty standard. And you'll find it in other sections of your code. I would actually suggest a revision to that because it's written a little bit differently. I'm not sure why. It should say each day a violation continues shall be a separate offense. And so the fines for those accrue at the time of the issuance of a citation. So they won't automatically accrue. It's not like you cite somebody and then if you go to court 3 months later, the judge can impose a fine of $200 for every day that has elapsed since then. That would rapidly exceed the maximum fine you can impose under law for a municipal infraction. But you can charge them with separate offenses because every time you see it, it's in violation of the law. So it's like committing a whole series of crimes. So you can get charged for any or all of those.
And
Not a crime. They are, I want to make clear it's like that. Oh, that was an analogy, but they are civil offenses for all purposes.
And I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. And also, I believe our code enforcement officer had a comment regarding about how we actually, through our normal procedures, would enforce something like this.
We were talking about, I think Valerie was a little bit worried about the $200 amount. And we normally give 10 days for someone to comply or to show intent to comply. It's sort of like I could go in and tell you that health-wise you needed to paint a room. You could get that done in 10 days, and we could expect that. But if you had a failing deck and or a roof or something like that, we couldn't expect that to be done in 10 days. So you would need to show us intent to comply with that in 10 days. So does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
Fine.
so, based on the attorney's advice, there's no change needed with the language that is there based on the interpretation, or is there?
I would suggest modifying that one sentence a little bit. So the motion, if you collectively agree, would be to amend the proposed ordinance so that the second sentence in 102-8 says each day a violation continues shall be a separate offense.
Okay, if you write that down, if
I
it's
will.
okay, I will.
At the appropriate time, we'll entertain that amendment.
All right, thank you. And then my second question was on the inspection charges and licenses. And my question was, I didn't notice that in here. And again, through a conversation with the code enforcement officer, the intent was that once we pass this policy, that the inspection charge and licenses would be set thereafter in a separate document, normally an appendix to probably our general fund or something like that. And so right now, that question about not having a fee for the inspection charge or a license set, I believe is just fine. But that was my other concern regarding this ordinance. So I believe both my concerns have been addressed.
Well, and we'll have council discussion on this at the appropriate time.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to close? All in favor?
Aye.
Any ayes have it? Thank you. We're right close to 7 o'clock. Mhm. Oh, I've got past 7. Okey dokey. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. We will now begin the May 16th Chesapeake Beach Town Council meeting. I'll call to order and note that the entire council and mayor are present, minus Councilman Cumbo. At this time, I'd like to ask Dr. Schisler if he's here. Is he here? To lead us in a pledge of allegiance.
When I pass that baton to Camden and Raleigh Sterling.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move
So-
to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any ayes have it? At this part, we asked, is there any public comment on any item that is on the agenda? Hearing none, I'll move on to approval of the minutes of the April 18th public hearing.
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any ayes have it? Approval of the minutes of the April 18th town council meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any ayes have it? And approval of the minutes of the May 6th informational work session.
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any ayes have it? Now we'll move to the next part of our meeting, which we usually start these meetings off with fun things. This is where it's fun to be an elected town council person or elected mayor. The gentleman in the audience, Dr. Schisler, he comes to our meetings a whole lot and he brings his children, and we're fortunate that these children are always winning something and getting awards and that. And, we always get a chance to praise the children, but I never get a chance to actually praise Dr. Schisler himself. So I'm going to do that right now. Because I'm just going to, if you will, just tell my experiences with Dr. Schisler. I can remember when I was coaching basketball and we had practice over at Beach Elementary Gym, small gym. And Dr. Schisler comes, this is in the evening, and he comes by and he looks at me and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And I'm a basketball coach. I'm looking at him like, what are you doing here? And he's still working. And I'm thinking, does this guy ever go home? So then I go to basketball games and I get there early, and who's on the basketball court, coaching his son's team, coaching 10 children? Dr. Schisler. And I'm thinking, This guy's always here. One day when Navy had a new basketball stadium, I guess I'm aging myself now, it's probably about 15 years ago, take my son to a basketball game up in Annapolis. Who do I see with a bunch of children? Dr. Schisler. I can't even leave, the county. So he's really an amazing guy, with his dedication to children. Almost 30 years ago, when my wife and I were house hunting, we were married, newlyweds, and about to start a family, and we were looking to move down into Southern Maryland, and we were told, go to Calvert County. Schools are great. Northern High is like a secret great high school. Make sure you move in Northern High District. And we were new parents to be, but we were looking for that, so we moved down here because Northern High. Little did I know that the gem of Calvert County was Beach Elementary School. And I tell you, I don't mind telling you, my son had more homework in Beach Elementary till he went to college. No offense on what happened in between. It's the God's honest truth. And when the day that we found out that he was accepted to the business, this is Patrick, he was accepted into the business school at College Park, one of the first or second person I called up was Dr. Schisler, and I thanked him because I knew that my boy would not have achieved that if he didn't push him. He and his staff didn't push, and that's what he did. And we were, rewarded by that. It was the best thing I ever did. It was the smartest thing I ever did, short of getting married, was moving down here and in an area where my son could go to Beach Elementary. So I've been dying to say that now for the 23 years as a councilman or mayor, and I finally got my chance, and I'm happy. But I'm not done. But what I'm going to do now is just hand things over to the Master of Ceremonies, Councilman Greg Morris. All yours, sir.
Thanks, Pat. Good evening, everybody. It's not just another really special night here at Town Hall. I don't know Mike very well. I know that sounds a little odd, Pat calling me the Master of Ceremonies and all that, but what I do know of him, I'll be eternally grateful for. He's been an extraordinary principal and leader of our children. Mike's been principal at Beach Elementary for over 20 years now? Is that right? Right. And anybody that knows the county, they like to cycle the principals around the schools. And we've been very fortunate here in Beach to have a stalwart principal here in our community for a couple of decades now. He's but one of the reasons the Beach Elementary School has been so great for our kids. Of course, all the teachers and parents, they get credit, but Mike helps to set the trajectory for things over there. There are many successful and well-attended programs at Beach Elementary School. We're all familiar with the Beach Bishops and the robotics teams and Mesa, just to name a few. They've been consistently strong under Mike's purview. Some of my favorite experiences as councilman is when the kids come and Mike brings the kids here, and I've learned life lessons every time they come, and that's because of the folks at Beach that help instill these life lessons with our kids. I know when my kids were at Beach Elementary, Mike once told me and told Susie and I that he promised to only believe half of what he hears at home if we believed only half of what he heard from school. What we heard from school. So that helped us sort through our dinner conversations with our kids and not be so too tense with them. Another thing, like Pat stated, Mike is always there. He remembers each kid's name, is always offering encouragement and wisdom all the way through, unfailing. Tonight we do have some folks that would like to speak towards his accomplishments here in town. So the podium is open for those who would like to say something. Raise your hand, just come one at a time. I know there's a few of you here. Ms. Banks, would you like to start off, please? And Ms. Banks was vice principal at Beach Elementary School, who is now retired. She herself is an outstanding vice principal.
All right. Okay. Good evening. I'm Chris Banks, as Mr. Morris said, and I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to speak on this occasion honoring our outstanding educator, Dr. Schisler. It was great working with him. I worked with him for 7 years and knew Ms. Bodine and knew, of course, Mr. Morris, and I also knew Mr. Pardick because his children live not far from me. All right. Dr. Schisler is he's truly dedicated to education. After more than 40 years, he continues to give his time and energies to the children, staff, and parents of Beach. I used to love watching him, and someone's already mentioned this. I used to love watching him greet the kids when they got off the bus in the morning because he called them all by name. I tried calling them by name, but I think I got to maybe 65%, knowing 65% of them. And then also in the afternoon, he'd say goodnight and calling them by name. There was always, and as a vice principal, there was always paperwork, and also cafeteria duty and sometimes recess duty. But I loved chess club. I did that many times did that after school with Dr. Schisler. Then he decided there would be chess and pizza night. So I did that after school as well. It was fun. And he helped me build my confidence as a chess player to the extent that he had me show parents what to do when it came to playing chess. Not that I'm an expert, because I didn't play the 5th graders or the 4th graders. Probably not the 3rd graders either. All right. And then there were trips to the various chess tournaments around the state. And we went to Baltimore and Eastern Shore. I remember going to Chestertown, various places. And very recently, even though I'm retired, I even had a chance to go with the girls team to Baltimore, where they took first place in a regional competition in chess. And some of the girls are here today. Yes. Was it saying girls? Yes. All right. And there was Military Family Night that Dr. Schisler decided to start having once a month to honor our military families, because it was realized after a while that we had quite a few kids whose parents were in the military. And we had instances where moms and dads sometimes were deployed at the same time. 4th graders have the geography bee to look forward to when they're at Beach. And last year, I think one of the students made it past the county level and didn't do badly in terms, because Dr. Schisler's real concern of his is that geography get taught, and he makes sure it's included in our staff meetings and a part of our week. Dr. Schisler had me work with him teaching chess to adults, to administrators at an administrative staff retreat. All right. And I'm thinking, these people probably, these administrators, probably know as much as I do about chess, but, it turned out that they didn't necessarily. But anyway, these are some of the things that I did as a result of working with Dr. Schisler. He was always concerned about student achievement, but also adult achievement. And as a result, we've had wonderful results in terms of student achievement. And I'm going to say this to end with, I recently, although I'm retired, I have gone into real estate, and often I go to various events. And recently I went to a broker's open house, and Beach came up. I think I mentioned that I worked there. And this realtor with whom I was not familiar started to gush when she said Beach, because she said, "Oh, that's the school where that principal is. People talk about him all the time. And the reason why their kids go to Beach is because he's there." And so, like them, I feel that he is greatly to be admired and appreciated, a real asset to Chesapeake Beach and to Calvert County.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Our elementary school, everybody. This is Ms. Barbie Tompkins and Ms. Sherry Owens. And Barbie Tompkins is by far my son's favorite elementary school teacher.
I have to make Dr. Schisler very proud right now, because he, at the end of the school year, will give every staff member an award. And one year, Dr. Schisler gave me the award of the person who never needs a microphone. So point that out.
We're recording.
Oh, darn. Sorry. That's right.
So just so you know, I arrived at Beach Elementary School in 1988. Dr. Schisler was his first year as vice principal, 4 years vice principal, 27 years principal at Beach. And I've taught your daughter and I taught your son in first grade. Yep. She has the written down speech. So.
You did a great job.
So my name is Barbie Tompkins, and currently I am the dean at Sunderland Elementary School. I probably will cry through part of this. I'm just going to let everyone know. I'm very proud to say that I did start my career in Calvert County at Beach Elementary School. I was hired by Dr. Schisler, and I have to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, but more about the man. When he hired me at Beach, I had done a long-term subbing position for him that school year, and then went and had an interview with him. It was a fantastic interview. I left thinking life was great. 2 days later, my family suffered a severe tragedy, and we lost a son. And Dr. Schisler still hired me. He hired someone broken, someone who wasn't sure that she could walk back into a classroom. But at my son's viewing, he said, "We're going to be all right, and we're going to make it through this." And we did, thank goodness, because he made sure that he put me with my best friend, Sherry Owens, that we've remained friends all these years. Whenever I tell people that I taught at Beach Elementary School, and you've heard this from other people, people say, "Wow, you taught under Dr. Schisler? What was that like?" Because in Chesapeake Beach, in this community, Dr. Schisler is very, very important to everybody here. But in Calvert County Public Schools, he's a legend. Because like you said, they don't transfer people. And they transfer people often. They don't let people stay. And part of the reason they let him stay is because he has developed this culture, not only with the kids, but with the staff. So when you see that sign that says Beach Elementary School, a great place for kids, it's a great place for staff too, because he made a home for every single one of us when we walked in those doors, and he always welcomes us back. Another thing that he always says is that once a beach baby, always a beach baby. Did you all repeat it with me? So I know that the adults, all of you who have had kids that have gone through Beach, you really do think that that applies to your children. That applies to us as well. Because that culture that Mike made for all of us is something that we take with us for life. We take the lessons. We take the fact that when Miss Banks was saying he greets every student when they walk in, if they don't shake his hand, he teaches them how to shake the hand. He also stands in the afternoon at his post, no matter what else is going, and he shakes their hand when they leave. He teaches children how to look him in the eye. He teaches children how to respect. He expects that of his staff as well. So many times when you're frustrated and you think you can't handle that child one more second, he will say to you, "I gave you that child for a reason." And it's true. I mean, I look around, I did teach James Morris, and again, he's become one of my favorite kids. And I will say, in the beginning, I'm not so sure you liked me as much, but we were put together for a reason, and Dr. Schisler knew that, and we've continued that friendship throughout the years. So I have to say to everybody, I'm so grateful for Mike. I'm grateful for Beach Elementary, grateful for all my friends that I made at Beach, and thank you, Dr. Schisler.
Excellent. Thanks, Barbie. Carl?
I know this guy.
Greg, thanks for the invite. Pat, it's good to see you again. My name's Carl Horn. I'm new to the county. I've been here for about 15 years. These two
Yeah.
probably a little bit less, maybe 11 and 8 or so, but they've been at Beach the whole time. So I've gotten to know Dr. Schisler fairly well because not only is he always at school, but I'm there because Ryan, my daughter, likes to volunteer for everything. So we can witness to that. And while we lived in Richfield Station for 14 years, for the past 2 years, we moved to Old Bayside. And so, Pat, even though I'm not a voter anymore, I still pay taxes in the town, just as a reminder.
Well,
So-
I have to correct that. You don't pay taxes in the town, but you are allowed to vote for me next election.
So back to Dr. Schizler. So we drive off of Old Bayside. I probably go up and down that road maybe 6 to 8 times a day, and his teal Subaru Forester is always there. In fact, on the occasion that it's not, which is usually Sunday morning, I think is the only time. But some Sundays you're there, just later in the day. It's a surprise not to see him there, and it's actually become quite a joke. And when I see him walking to the car, I honk, and at this point he doesn't look anymore. He just waves, just throws up the hand. Thanks a lot. Thanks for teaching our kids, being there every day, putting up with at least one of them, if not both of them. Thank you. Appreciate that, and thanks for having us.
Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you, Carl.
Okay, sure. Ryan wanted to say a word too. That's okay.
Indeed.
Okay.
With
Can you-
Dr. Schissler, did I turn it?
Yeah, lower it down to yourself. There you
I
go.
wanted to say with Dr. Schissler, at every chess tournament, even when especially when it's just a girls' tournament, he'll always tell us before and after he's proud of us no matter what our turnout is. So if we don't have that good of a chess day, he still is proud of us, and he does a lot for our school, and there's no really such thing as a bad chess tournament with him. And he is just a really good principal.
Indeed, he
spends
is.
time during. Because whenever report cards come out, he's always there, and he has our teachers come, and we go and we kind of take turns with the teachers. But we come up, we shake his hand, he hands out our report cards, he congratulates us. We go and we get a pin, and he's done it since kindergarten, I think, and he's really good at that. He never forgets.
Never forgets.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to say anything tonight, please? Please raise your hand. We
I'm gonna
could.
add one last comment. One thing that I forgot, for those of you in the audience who don't know this, I'm not good at signals, Carl, sorry. But last Friday, okay, for those of you who don't know, I had the honor to be up in Annapolis in the governor's room of the State House, where the Lieutenant Governor Rutherford honored the 11 children in Maryland who won first place for the If I Were Mayor essay contest. There were, they divide the state into 11 districts. Out of 2,700 entries, these 11 children won. And, one of the winners happened to be Layla White, who's a fourth grader in Beach Elementary. Ms. Humphreys was there. And this is just another, I mean, we're sitting here in this little town hall, honoring, a man that we're very proud and honored to know. But his legend's up in Annapolis as well. I was there last Friday with the Lieutenant Governor, and it's just wonderful to see one of his children, one of our children, take first place in a statewide contest. So once again, I just want to applaud Dr. Schissler for that.
Well, we absolutely could have people speak all night long to Dr. Schissler.
Can I get 300 seconds?
Please.
Wait a minute. Are those Mississippis or are they seconds?
My kids and my staff know what 300 seconds means. But just to try to set the record straight. First off, thank you very much. But the second thing is, it's never a one-man show. And I may start crying like my dad. But there are 3 people back at that school: Levada Jones, Delano Gray, and Gerald Holland, for making sure that building is clean, spotless, and ready for all of us tomorrow. And they do that every single school day, and they do that 12 months a year. So it's all the folks that make this happen, right? It's what Chris Banks has done. It's what Sherry's done. Sherry every year leads our Angel Tree effort to help the families in our community. And the Sterlings, Mrs. Sterling's been a Lego coach, yearbook coordinator. The load is shared by many, many people, right? And you folks who are former parents, you know how you've helped too, and Dr. Loda. So I was getting a little suspicious when Pat asked me to be here. a month or so ago, and I thought, okay, what's the next letter writing campaign that we're going to have? What's the next town project that we're going to have to write letters of support for to some state agency? And then this is really part of the mistake tonight, because I was supposed to be here with about a dozen other kids, and we were going to give our thank yous to you folks for your support for us, especially for the water park passes. And then we have other community partners who have certificates for the kids every marking period. So that was the game plan, all right? And then what I admitted in a text to Pat today, that I was a bit behind. One of my middle names is late. And I had picked the kids. I looked at all the writing samples the teachers got from the kids. I hadn't called a single parent. And I said, I'm not calling parents at 1 o'clock today and say, can you be at the town hall at 6:30? I knew that I would be pushing my luck. So we'll have to reschedule for that part there. And I got a little more suspicious when Mr. Morris called me and wanted to make sure I was coming. A few other people might be there. So again, thank you for what you asked me here. And a couple things that have kind of kept me grounded. First off, you're wondering why I'm at school all the time. My wife and I do have a good marriage. Okay? We have 4 kids who are all adults, and they went through the Calvert County Public School System. But, I had time and made time when they were growing up. Like Pat was talking about, especially Megan with the world of sports. But my wife Joan has really made it possible for me to put as much time as I can into this. And I wear the Navy hat. Some of you know this. I wear the Navy hat in honor of my dad, who was a 17-year-old kid when he went into World War II. Was called back for Korea. All right, he passed away a couple years ago. I myself went into the Peace Corps. I was in the Central African Republic for 2 years. Gave me a chance to see a lot about how the other parts of this world live and act. And one of the folks I crossed paths with in my training in Africa was a missionary by the name of Paul Gebauer. He was from Washington State. And he told us several things. He said, first off, something to wait and see, especially in Africa and other parts of the world, wait and see. And he also said to go home again. And he said, go home again. Make sure you go home and grow in your own backyard. Well, I think I've been blessed that Chesapeake Beach has become my backyard. So that's stuck with me. Another thing that stuck with me also was my late father-in-law. One of his repeated favorite sayings was, he was the most, first I'll say, he was the most intelligent man I ever met and the most conservative. So you can see how that might have been a conflict with me and him at times. But one of his sayings was, do good work, keep a low profile. So back to this business of being at beach for so long, I try to keep a low profile. I wanted to move other people, go right ahead, okay? I was very happy with this community, to be here, working here. As you all know, this community has been changing the last 3 decades, and it's a really wonderful place to be with a lot of great people. And we thank you for sending your kids to us, and we try to do our best. We don't have a school of angels, we have a school of kids. So everybody needs to learn as they learn. So enough, I want to keep you all night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Well, it's my hope that Mike will at least see the old Beach Elementary School through to the new school at a minimum. Well, it seems like a clean break, and if we can delay the school construction a little bit, we might get another 3 or 4 years with Dr. Schisler here. We've got a special guest here who couldn't be here tonight. She's here from Florida. She's a retired teacher, outstanding individual. If you've ever met her, Ms. Desiree Stamps.
We see her. She ended with the circle and everything. Here we go.
There we go. Give me 1 second. Let's back it up and let's make some noise. Hang on 1 minute. Let me start it over. I'm sorry. Hang on.
Ms. Stamps was a longtime teacher at Beach. Worked. I can recite her words. I do have her words if I need to say it. I can.
Here we go. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry, folks. Let me see if it could be with this computer. That's what I'm gonna have to maybe, Valerie, but I think it might, no, it's not that. So good point. Let's go back to that. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Let's try it one more time. Ready? Mm-mm. It's coming up there, but it's not loud enough. I can't make anything any louder.
Well, we.
I can recite the words. I
Yeah,
do have.
she's Greg will
Yeah, please.
take care of it.
By Ms. Desiree Stamps, I'm so sorry I can't be present to honor my former boss, my comrade, my friend, Dr. Michael Schischler. I first encountered Mike Schischler in the mid-1980s, working together doing Shakespeare for the students of Appeal Elementary School. This was his brainchild. Introduced kids to Shakespeare early. I followed him to Beach Elementary and had been included in his mind-bending adventures for many years. Always a visionary, making sure to find practices to enhance the total child, we've taken the school community by train, bus, skipjack, and car all over the DMV. We've trekked the back hills of school to the swampland of Fishing Creek, waders in hand. Hundreds of students slept in the mountain cabins of Western Port, Maryland, visited Williamsburg and the Amish communities of Pennsylvania. He's trailblazed our school programs with Chess Club, K-Kids, Beach Buddies, Math Night, Pen Pals, Military Family Nights, just to name a handful of things there. I don't know where he gets the energy. He has worked tirelessly for years to enhance the lives of our youth. I had to leave years ago. I ran out of steam. We have all been blessed with the efforts of a great man. I salute you, Desiree Spencer Stamps.
Nice.
So, because we can, it's my pleasure and distinct honor to present not just a written award to hang on the wall, but it's a unique quilt that we had made for Dr. Schischler. And I'll read the dedication panel that's on it. In recognition of and with much appreciation for your outstanding dedication to our children and their community, the town of Chesapeake Beach Mayor, Town Council, and town residents hereby present this special quilt to you, Dr. Michael Schischler, Principal of Beach Elementary. We are humbly forever grateful for your commitment and service to make Beach Elementary a great place for kids, May 2019. The pillow is just extra material here. My mother-in-law, my wife are here in the third row. My mother-in-law is a quilting legend. Dr. Schischler has helped keep our kids safe and warm all of these years. Here's something to help keep him safe and warm.
Is that checkmate?
Don't ask hard questions.
Okay, Ryan and Liam, come on up and answer questions of this technique. Daniel, come on up.
You guys are gonna have to scoot in like you like each other, you know?
You're right, it's not checkmate.
Hey, kids, why don't you, maybe you can come over here by Valerie? That way I think it'll make it a little better.
Raleigh and Lena, come on up and be bookends.
All right, we good? What's wrong? Oh, okay. Scoot in as far as you can, guys. Thank you. Let me do one more, okay? See if I can get just a little bigger. Perfect. Very good.
It's a pillowcase, great.
Thank you for everybody else. I don't know if you knew what you walked into tonight. But thank you for being here.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 30-second recess for those that just for this presentation and wish to go home and watch something on TV at 8 o'clock or do your homework or whatever. We'll give you guys a break to go ahead and head on out. So.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for coming out.
I want to. I didn't mean you. I want you and your mother-in-law to come up here. No, hold on. Come on up here. Come on up here. We'll let these guys come out. We're going to get you right here. I want to thank you for that beautiful work. Thank you so much, and it's an honor to meet you. Yeah.
And I love quilting and I love doing
That's beautiful.
Well, you do a wonderful job.
Thank you.
My Lord. Yeah, it was I never would have expected something that beautiful. When Greg told me about it, I try to keep he just said, beware. Yeah. And he was right. So thank you so much. Yeah, it really, really was. It was really special.
Thank you, Mayor and Town Council.
Thank you, sir.
Next month we get.
Have a good night. Well, this next person's really on the hook now. I mean, that's a hard act to follow. We have a presentation from Sherrod Sturrock, the Calvert County Museums Division Chief. I believe give us a little update or presentation on the project.
Yes, thank you very much for this time. I am also a big fan of Dr. Schisler's. I've known him ever since I've been in the county. My husband was a principal with him, and he brings his kids to the Calvert Marine Museum. He is always there with them every time, and they are well behaved. Make you proud. So, Mayor Mahoney and esteemed council members, we appreciate a little bit of your time to talk about another important partner in the town. Having a vibrant school is critical, and tonight we're talking about the Chesapeake Beach Railway Museum, which is your museum. My name is Sherrod Sturrock. I am the director of the Calvert Marine Museum, but as you mentioned, also the division chief for Calvert County Museums, and that's the capacity I'm here in tonight. With me, I have Hillary Daly, who is the tourism specialist and no stranger to you, and also Mike Sweeney, who's the president of the Friends of the Chesapeake Beach Railway Museum. We want to talk to you a little bit about the museum, to talk to you about our plans for the museum, and to plant a seed. But we're going to start with President Sweeney. Yeah, how do you like that?
Thanks.
I like the sound of it.
You've been called a lot of things, Mike.
Yes. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I'm the president of the Friends of the Chesapeake Beach Railway Museum. I'm also kind of a fixture. I work there every Sunday, have for the last 10 years. Last year, I put in about 542 hours working with the museum on projects and things like that. And I also train the new docents that we have. and retrain the ones that we have, give them refresher training. I have prepared comments. As we all know, the town was incorporated in 1894, and it was granted, it was incorporated by the state after a charter from the Washington Chesapeake Beach Railroad. And there's something about railroads. In many cases, just about all cases, when a railroad comes to town, the town starts to come alive. It grows, it thrives. But when the railroad stops running to a town for whatever reason, the town starts to wither and die. It's happened hundreds, many thousands of times, not only in America, but in the United States. Fortunately, in Chesapeake Beach, we didn't see that. Chesapeake Beach beat the odds. After the train stopped running, the town did not die. It continued to grow and prosper to where it is the envy of the Washington, Baltimore area. It continued to grow and prosper, and it became different from other beach towns that dot the bay. In these other towns, somebody comes or a family comes to the town, they enjoy the bay, and then they go home. This town has such depth and substance that many visitors to the museum tell us, and I see it every Sunday, they tell us they wish they could live here. What a good compliment to the town. The museum, founded in 1979, strives to keep this wonderful history alive by memorializing the people, places, and things that were and are in the town. The museum tells two stories, the story of the journey here on the train and the story of the destination, the town. Truth be told, our story is about 30% the trip, the journey, and 70% the town. That's how we have it in the museum. And it's a great ratio. It works. It works for those people who have a narrow interest in railroading. But more importantly, it works for the general public who are interested in the town and its history. When we train new docents, we train them about the 30% and 70%. That is so important. The Friends were incorporated by the state of Maryland in 1997 as a, quote, charitable, historical, educational, and tourism-oriented corporation. While tourism-oriented is last on the list of our purposes, tourism is at the top of what we do every day. Our docents spend considerable time with visitors describing what is available to do in the town, and we direct them there. We point them to Bayfront Park to hunt shark's teeth. We point them to the town playground so that their kids can get rid of a lot of pent-up energy. We point them to the rail trail so they can enjoy a walk with nature. And we point them to the historic walking trail that goes up into the townhouses of Old Chesapeake Beach, so they can understand what the town looked like in the early 20th century and compare it with where they're standing. And if asked, we even provide them with a list of places to eat in the town. That's very important. And here it is. Our tourism efforts are not confined to the walls of the museum. As a matter of yearly programming, we host many community activities, which include Family Fun Days, which is like a mini carnival twice a year, that families can come and moon bounces and games and all kinds of good stuff. We have children's programs in the summer. We have concerts out on the porch of the museum. We have Halloween celebrations, and we have a Christmas program that includes the reading of the Polar Express and a large, very large train layout that the children can operate themselves. All of these are free to the public and were paid for by the Friends. Further, we participate in your celebrations, Taste of the Beaches, Stars and Stripes Festival, and thank you so much for including us with them. So in summary, yes, we are a significant contributor to tourism in the town. Many of our visitors, upon leaving the museum after a visit, tell us what a great town this is. They express their thanks to us for taking the time and effort to keep history alive. And we hear a lot when they're leaving. They say, this place is neat. This place is nice. We're coming back. And that's what's important to us. Thank you. And I'll be followed by Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Hillary.
You do. Good evening. My name is Hillary Daly, and I am the tourism specialist for Calvert County. My job is to tell the world outside of Calvert County what a fun, interesting, and historically significant area this is. I want them to come, visit, spend their money, and go home.
Amen.
I wanted to thank Ms. Sturrock for allowing me to talk a little bit about the importance of tourism to Calvert County's economy. I work in the Economic Development Office because tourism is a revenue generator. In fact, in addition to being a critical part of our culture and quality of life, it's one of the county's largest economic drivers. On average, Calvert County receives 350,000 day trip visitors and 300,000 overnight visitors per year. These visitors spend their money at our restaurants, wineries, golf courses, beaches, and other attractions. In the state of Maryland, this visitor spending generates over $2 billion in state and local taxes per year, and Calvert County receives a piece of that pie. Without these visitor dollars, the average household in Maryland would have to pay an additional $1,100 per year to replace this revenue. The Chesapeake Beach Railway Museum is an important tourist attraction in Calvert County. Out of dozens of wonderful county attractions to discover, including museums, restaurants, wineries, parks, beaches, and other amusements, it is one of 12 chosen attractions that currently reports its visitor counts to our office to deliver to the state level, due to its unique cultural and historical significance, not only to the town of Chesapeake Beach, but to the state of Maryland. Indeed, Calvert County, Maryland is an outstanding place to live, work, and visit. Thanks.
So in your packets, you have some information about what we're doing at the museum. We've written a grant to the Maryland Heritage Area Authority that will really revitalize what's going on at Chesapeake Beach Railway Museum. I want to thank you for being willing to support that grant with the $5,000 to help us meet our match. It's over $100,000 project. With that money, we'll be able to renovate the Randall Cliff School, which is just south of the town, to temporarily house staff and our collections. And while they're there, we'll be able to totally restore and create a new exhibit in the Chesapeake Beach Railway Museum. It's a very, very exciting proposition. We should find out next month if the grant is funded, but I think our chances are excellent. And then comes the big change. It will take us about a year to do this work. During part of that time, the museum will need to close down because we'll empty everything out. But when it reopens, it's going to be a showplace. It's going to tell the story of the town. It's going to be a place people want to come. And right now, because of the limited budget that we have provided by Calvert County government, our hours are quite limited. I would like to suggest that you consider in your fiscal 21 budget creating a line item to help support the operating funds for the Railway Museum targeted specifically to extended hours. $25,000 would allow us to be open year-round. It's not a lot of money, but with that, we can hire part-time people who can make all the difference. So we're not asking for anything tonight. You have been very generous in your FY20 budget, and we appreciate that, but would like to plant that seed and ask that you consider providing ongoing support for this museum that is really so integral to the story of this town. So with that, we conclude our presentation. Thank you very much for the time that you've given us and for the support you've given the museum, and I can answer any questions.
I just have a comment, and that would be, I would ask you to, in the December, early January timeframe, as we start to gear up for next year's budget, to send us a letter with a request, and we get many requests, and we'll consider that with our other requests.
We absolutely will do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank all of you.
Bye-bye. You said that. We'll get it. Larry will get the answer for you. Okay, next we have the Safe Routes to School State Highway Administration 30% design presentation.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, my name is Radit Lodamo. I am from Brutus and Associates. I will talk about this Safe Routes to School project and give you an update on a 30% design we just completed. Slide view, we can. Slide view. All right.
Do you want him to use that, Howard? I think he just wants to go to the slide, the PowerPoint,
Yeah,
the
from
slideshow icon.
Left, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Maybe. Give it a minute. There we go.
All right. Okay.
That one I think is going to come on in a second.
All right. Here is a brief outline of what I will talk about today. Just a project overview, where we stand with the 30% preliminary engineering design and impacts we identified based on the 30% design, and the permitting and approvals needed. And if you have any questions at the end, I'll take some questions. So basically, our purpose is to prepare construction documents for sidewalk connectivity with Beach Elementary School as a focal point. The project limits are on 261, which is a state route from the existing sidewalk on Chesapeake Village Boulevard on the south side, going north to the school, and along Old Bayside Road from F Street back to 261. The approximate project length is 0.67 miles. Our current status is 30% preliminary engineering, or PI. So the project overview is the proposed improvements are mainly the sidewalk, ADA ramp construction, curb and gutter, driveway entrances where there are driveways. Because we are putting curb and gutter and sidewalk, there will be some grading tie-ins. Also, since there are no drainage facilities in the area, and because we are putting curb and gutter, additional storm drainage improvements will be needed. The other item is the stormwater management. Because of there is no existing sidewalk, for the additional improvement or for the additional impervious area, the state, the county, and the town ordinance requires that stormwater management to be provided. We also have included signing and pavement marking. Some signs need to be replaced. Some will be impacted by the proposed improvement, so those will be installed. We have a boardwalk across a stream and wetland. There are a retaining wall and slope stabilization, where we have steep slopes on 261. The project also involves pedestrian lighting and landscape. So this is a layout of our 30% plan. Basically, what you're looking at is Old Bayside Road, going from F Street on the top to Maryland 261. The proposed sidewalk is on the north side, maybe a gray line and a white line that you'd see. It's on north side on the school side. The proposed improvements are curb and gutter. We have curb and gutter, 5-foot sidewalk, ADA ramp improvements at driveways and also at Maryland 261. There is also storm drain construction because there is no storm drain today along the north side, tying back to Maryland 261. There is a stormwater management also, the area that you see across this street, that's the stormwater management proposed. There will be signing and pavement marking at the intersection of 261 and Old Bayside. This segment is Maryland 261 portion. The same thing, sidewalk would be on the west side of Maryland 261 within the state right-of-way. Also proposed is ramps, ADA ramps, curb and gutter, and sidewalk. So there are some areas with special concern. The area that you see past 13th Street is a steep slope area, and a little after that, probably 150 feet, also there is a very steep slope area. So those areas are special concern because there is no, pretty much there is no space to provide sidewalk as it stands today. So we had to do retaining wall and some slope stabilization as well. So that area circled is basically a very steep slope. Today it's close to 1-to-1 slope. So that area has to be, when we cut into the hill, basically that area has to be stabilized. That area is approximately 90 linear feet. Stabilization is done using soil nailing. The next area is a little past that. It's just a high point on 261 in that area. That area also is very steep, close to 1-to-1 slope today. So that's basically had to be stabilized, and as well as retaining wall will be needed in that area. There is also a stream crossing, a Brown Creek stream crossing, which is on downstream side. It's a tidal wetland. Upstream side, it's non-tidal wetland. It's also classified water of the United States. So across that, to cross that area, where 160-foot boardwalk has been proposed for that area. This is a typical section of right from our 30% design, where we are proposing sidewalk. Basically, the curb and gutter will go at the existing edge of pavement. We have concrete sidewalk, and this area would be a combination of slope stabilization with soil nailing, as well as architectural block wall. So the retaining wall is about 4.5 feet maximum, and soil stabilization would be at 1-to-1 slope. This is just a sample picture, how it will look like during installation. I have a sample picture also for the architectural block wall. It comes in different patterns and colors. So as we move forward during 60-90%, with the coordination with the town, depending on preference, a material can be selected. Just a general plan and elevation and typical section of the boardwalk. This is a treated timber boardwalk supported on H piles. The soil under the stream is very soft, so we are using H piles for that. So next is I'll talk about the impacts based on 30% design impacts we have identified. As we progress the design, some of these may change, but as it stands today, this is what we have. Utilities. Utility pole relocation is not anticipated at this time. There are a number of utilities on 261 and on Old Side Road. So we basically have placed a sidewalk to avoid impact to utilities, just to reduce cost. There are a few areas where there will be some constraint to provide, enough width sidewalk because of the utility poles. In those areas, we may not be able to provide 5 feet wide concrete sidewalk. So those areas, typically with state highway, we would have to request a waiver for those areas. So any sidewalk walk widths, 3 foot, at least a minimum width, 3 feet wide, would be okay, as long as we demonstrate that there is a hardship to meet a 5 foot wide sidewalk. Underground utilities. There are several underground utilities on Old Bay side. Water utilities, sanitary sewer, some electric and telecommunication lines, especially where we are running the sidewalk. We have tried our best to place our stormwater management facilities and storm drain system to avoid impact to those utilities. There are some areas where it may be, it's impossible just to avoid the conflict. So a storm drain may be crossing a utility line or an electric line. For those, we need to order test pits. This is typically done when the design is 60 to 90% design stage. Right of way. Currently, we haven't identified any right of way. I'm talking about total take right of way need, but we have identified about 17,000 square feet of perpetual drainage easement. The purpose of that is wherever we have storm drain system outside of the towns or the state right of way, we need to have an easement so the town can go anytime when something happens and maintain without, having additional permission from the owner. There are approximately 12,000 square feet temporary construction easement. These are for grading tie-ins. Once the work is done, it will be replaced to its existing condition. Of course, there are wetland and waterways. There are no wetland and waterways on Old Bay side, but on 261, at least there are 2 wetlands. Approximate impact per 30% design is 7,500 square foot of wetland buffer and 1,900 square feet of non-tidal wetland impact. Permitting and approvals. So stormwater management and erosion and sediment control would be required for this project because it exceeds the minimum threshold of disturbance. For the project that's within state right-of-way, stormwater management and erosion and sediment control will be reviewed by Calvert County DPW. We have submitted concept stormwater management and received comments. We had made some changes based on the comments and resubmitted for approval. At the moment, we are just waiting for their approval on that. The other thing is the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA clearance, because project is receiving federal funding. Every project has to get this clearance. This is completed by State Highway, but we have coordinated and provided the environmental documentation needed for 30% design to State Highway Environmental Planning Division. We have been told that the project has a minor PCE, which is programmatic categorical exclusion, a while back. And based on where the project is now, there is nothing to be done. That's what we've been told, because you are already only funded for 30%, and the project has to be funded for 100% to complete PCE. At that time, we may have to resubmit the environmental documentation, because some of the environmental documentation have to be renewed or resubmitted every 90 days. The other item is the Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Review. Because we are adding impervious area, and this project is within the critical area, we have additional requirements to meet 10% pollutant reduction. We have included this calculation in our stormwater management submitted to Calvert County, and I believe this needs to be also reviewed by the town, and we need approval on that. Additional permitting and approvals needed that we have identified. JPA pre-application at 30%. Typically, we have a meeting with MDE and Army Corps of Engineers if you are impacting state water and wetland. So as I mentioned, there is 7,500 square feet of wetland and wetland buffer and 1,900 square feet of non-tidal wetland impacts. So we have submitted the pre-application to MDE, Wetland and Waterways Division. We had a meeting, a face-to-face meeting with them to identify permitting needs and mitigation requirements. Basically, since this project is within the critical area, any impact to wetlands have to be at 1-to-1 ratio. Options for mitigations are basically these are in order of preference. The mitigation bank, if the town has any mitigation bank somewhere, if you maintain a bank, you can debit the bank or pay a fee in lieu of for any impacted wetland. Or the last one they said would be considered is a compensatory. That's construction of a wetland somewhere else. Because of the impacts, these impacts are not significant, so probably the best thing to do would be the fee in lieu of. Once we proceed the project to 60 to 90%, because of the impacts, we have to submit a joint state and federal permit. Basically, that's called a JPA, and that needs to be submitted and basically authorized by MDE and Army Corps of Engineers for the impacts. Another item is the Forest Conservation Act and roadside tree care permit. This is a linear project. So based on that, and all the work is within either within the state right-of-way or the town right-of-way, we believe that it would be exempted from as a highway project from forest conservation. We have some tree impacts, especially as I said earlier, where we have the steep slope on 261. There will be some trees that will be impacted. At 30%, our landscape architect has identified the impacts and prepared the landscape plans. For SHA right-of-way, typically what would be done is that state tree care permit. That's typically done at 60 to 90%. With that, I will conclude my presentation. If you have any questions.
Does the council have any questions? I'll start with the Vice President.
First of all, thank you very much for your really informative presentation. Really appreciate it and really well done. My first question is, based on your presentation, all work, including the retaining walls, are within the right-of-way of the town or the state. Is that correct?
Yes.
Except for some stormwater management, which might be required to have an easement.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, how many properties does those affect, or could you?
Probably 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
I can get back to you exactly how many, but the largest property impact is from the school. We have a stormwater management in that area, and Another one is just past 13th Street, where there is an existing wetlands, very low area. We are proposing a wet swell there. So basically grading and tying back, we need additional easement in that area. So I think that probably 2 or 3 properties in that area. I can get back to you exactly if you need the numbers.
Next, I've lived here for 23 years now, and we in that time we've had a streetscape program that put in some medians and some sidewalks. But one of the things that also happened is it created some stormwater runoff issues that weren't mitigated. And so some properties get a lot of water runoff. And so it's just something to be aware of. I know you're doing stormwater management, but with the last large scale state project, like I said, we've had flooding. And so it's just something to keep in mind when you do curbs, that direct water coming down a slope, you will have a problem.
Yes.
Just something to think about.
Yeah, that's exactly what we are going through. Calvert County first review is basically we can't increase the 10-year storm. They have a threshold. We can't increase more than that. That's why we have stormwater management, basically to have the retention capacity there. So it's basically we analyze this for 10-year storm typically, and the project has to demonstrate that there is no significant increase. So at the moment, what we have is per our stormwater management report, it doesn't show significant increase at the outfalls.
Yeah, with those slopes all going along there from Beach Elementary to Chesapeake Village, it ought not to be a problem. It's just something to be concerned with as it comes down.
Yes.
I mean, we've seen it before. Next, you mentioned, if I remember correctly, on the boardwalk where you have to go over the creek.
Yes.
The idea was to do treated lumber.
Yes.
When the time comes, could that be considered to be composite because it lasts longer?
Yes, I think we have received comments on that, and
I know it's more expensive. But
Yeah, well, the composite is. I was talking to our structural engineer. It's basically it's a newer product, and and expensive, a little bit more expensive than wood. There are pros and cons. That it can be done. It's not, but it's just down the line. Sometimes products change. I mean, one of our concern is just the maintenance, upkeep. Maybe 10, 15 years from now, one is broken, you want to replace it, you may not find the right color, the right match. That may be a concern. So wood would be great. Composite, if the town prefers that, that can be included in that.
yeah, it can be discussed when the time comes. We're
Yes.
not quite there yet. And when you mention the ADA pinch points at 3 feet in those certain areas where there's power lines, I think it was,
Utility poles, yeah.
that's enough for a wheelchair, right?
Yes,
3
that's the
feet is
minimum
fine?
required by federal law, 3 feet. That's why the state typically doesn't allow less than 5 feet. But they give you a waiver if it's just a pinch point. It's just one location, and you can't move the power line because it's expensive. They will give the waiver, so.
Okay, when it comes to, like you mentioned, we do live in the critical area. And so you mentioned that we'll have to do mitigation, obviously. And you mentioned that you may suggest that we do fees in lieu.
A fee in lieu of, yeah.
Do we have an idea of how much that'll be?
I
estimate.
had an estimate just once we had the meeting with the MDE. I had asked our environmentalist to give me an estimate. I think he gave me roughly, based on the impact we have today, he gave me roughly between $6,000 to $8,000 fee to pay to the state.
Okay,
So
other
that
than,
may change depending on, when we revise the design, if the impacts increase, that may change.
so the idea is to give us, I think you mentioned, was it 60% and 90%? This was 30, obviously.
Yes.
So then there's a 60 and a 90?
Well, I'm just saying because typically they don't approve based on a 30% design because your design is going to change. So once you are 60 to 90% where the design is pretty much set at that time, you submit for the permit. They will come out, they will see your delineation. It has to be authorized. And then based on the impacts at that time, they will give the joint permit application authorization.
Sounds great. And once again, I'd like to congratulate you. It was a really well done presentation. And
Thank you.
throughout this process, my concern will continue to be the stormwater management so we don't have unintended flooding. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Larry.
Two questions and a comment for you. One is, has your design along Old Bayside Road at least taken into account the proposed new Beach Elementary School?
No, I wasn't aware if there
You,
is
you
any-
might want to just
any
look into that.
changes. I mean, we have completed 30% design now. Will there be, we haven't seen that if there is any, I mean, we have received some drawings from the past, but I was not aware. if there is
I don't think it would have significant impact, but you ought to just look at what's envisioned to make sure you don't do anything that conflicts with that we would have to come
Definitely.
and rip up as part of that new
Yes.
construction. My next one was already mentioned here, and that was the ADA compliance on the choke points. I'm just concerned that we can have access further down and then a neck point, but you say at 3 feet, we're still okay with people in wheelchairs getting
Yeah,
by.
yeah.
And then just my suggestion, you mentioned designing the drainage systems for the 10-year storm. And my concern is with climate change, what is historically the 10-year storm in the future may be the 5-year storm.
Yeah.
We ought to just take a look at that to make sure we don't cause ourselves any problems with the design life of this improvement being 15, 20 years. Like I said, what's the 10-year storm historically is going to be much more frequent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
When was the proposed project slate projected to be completed? Is it like 3 years from now, a couple of years? I mean, is it pretty far out? Are you saying that maybe it could be, maybe not? You're not really sure. Right. And I wanted to echo, Larry brought up one of the key comments I had was really, I'm surprised that you're unaware that there's a new school going in there. But that, and I don't know if there's any planning or anything we should try to do. Because I know that one of your slides there showed new driveway aprons going in and things like that, which undoubtedly would likely change when the new school goes in. And, you hate to see something brand new go in and then 6 months later, that's all getting tore up because there's a new plan and the school's going in. I don't know in what capacity that can be coordinated, even if, maybe that's the path it has to take. I'm not sure, but just some comments. Generally, is there any other work related to this project that could be affected by the new school construction? Just comments to think about.
Okay.
And then Councilwoman Bodine brought up, I like the composite too, but with the composite, it's my experience that your joists need to be 16 inches on center. It's not just replacing the boards. You got, what's that?
22.
22 inches on center? Is that okay? So, when designing that, maybe you want to make sure you at least get the joists in there, even if you go with the frame, the pressure treated lumber, so you can put composite down the road without having to add joists and things like that. That's all. And it was a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. How much, Keith?
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. My questions have been asked and answered, so thanks.
Yeah, and again, thank you as well. Very informative presentation. Could you, I know our ways off, but could you step through like the near-term milestones? You indicated that it's at Calvert County right now for follow-up review, but could you or maybe even Paul could assist, but step through the milestones of this project, for the next 6 months, 8 months.
Our current scope is basically through State Highway to do just 30% design. So basically, we have at the stopping point until you get funding, and we give you a separate proposal to take the project to 100%.
And I can answer, the 30% design has been submitted to State Highway. They're in the process of reviewing it now so that the requirement to apply for additional funding is to have that 30% design done. So that is, EAI has completed that and it has been submitted so that we can apply for that additional funding to complete the design and construction cost estimating.
Do we know when, or could we have an expectation of when we may hear back? And then, and then when the cycle is for the next funding?
The submitting, as you had forwarded a couple emails, it is now.
Right.
So we made it just in time for the 30%. So they have it. State Highway does have it in time. I do not have a timing yet, but I will follow up with them. We've been in contact. They've asked a couple clarification questions, which BAI has provided, and Paul's working with it as well. So we've definitely made the cutoff for additional funding. So I'll follow up with you on
Excellent.
that.
And thank you everyone who's been part of this project. This has been a long time coming to get to this point. And we're very excited and continuing to move forward. So thank you. And thank you very much for you and your company's support.
Thank you very much for coming down, sir.
Thank you.
We
Thank you for
appreciate
having
that.
me.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have North Beach Volunteer Fire Department. You all have read the report. If you have any questions, please forward them to Larry. Have a safe drive home, sir. If you have any questions, just let Larry know. Next, we have the deputies report. We read the report. Do we have any questions we actually have a sergeant and a lieutenant here, but
Yes, sir.
I believe, if y'all don't know it, Sergeant Phelps is actually the person who is assigned to the beach only. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I thought I'd let the council know that we pay for one, unique person that's assigned to the beach only, and we're lucky enough to have a sergeant at that. So, do we have any questions for Mr. Phelps? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Does that mean you work solely in the beach, or do you work in North Beach also?
My time on duty is spent mostly in Chesapeake Beach, is what it means. I do answer calls in North Beach and stuff.
It's like you wouldn't be doing the farmer's market anymore or anything like that,
the
right?
farmer's market, if I'm there, it's usually is part-time or overtime from North Beach.
This is my question. I had a resident phone me yesterday afternoon, and she mentioned and asked if I would mention it to you that on Tuesday morning at about 10:30, there were like 4 or 5 police cars, obviously answering her call, and she's completely supportive of the police. But the rate of speed that they were going on 261 by Beach Elementary School when kids were out on the tennis courts for recess, she felt was excessive. Even though they were answering a call. And so I just thought I'd mention it to you. I told her I would. And when you're answering a call, I'm not sure there's much you can do. But, she sees it quite often. She lives right on 261. And so it's just, I'm doing my due diligence by mentioning it to you. And she wanted you to she wanted me to ensure that I said that she's fully supportive of the police. She totally understands. But there's places and times when it just seems a bit excessive. And I think we've had that before also, that sort of comment. And that's all I had. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, Derek.
So in the April calls, I just noted 2 items that I thought were disproportionately heavy for this month compared to others, and I was just wondering if there were anything underlying behind that. Accidents and disorderly. I'm guessing maybe the accidents might have something to do with the bridge construction or whatever, but is there any significance behind either one of those, why they may be?
I would have to look at where the accidents are. It's probably just, traffic picking up. It's getting warmer, more cars, more people visiting. I'd have to. I don't think there are any serious accidents. There's accidents are ebb and tide kind of thing. I wouldn't. None of them were anything that were. But
Out of the ordinary.
Out of the ordinary.
Just okay. Yeah, I was just curious. Those 2 caught my eye in particular.
Disorderlies. It could be anything. We've got a couple town. I want to use a proper word. Couple people that in town, and that's where your trespassing arrests come off from also, that have been banned from places, and that can go out as disorderly or a trespassing call. Of the disorderlies or people, it just depends on where they are. But they're also an ebb and tide kind of thing, depending upon. I can tell you, there was a lot of them. Gordon Stinnett, Harbor, some Woodland Court, some on 29th, some on 30th. And it's just,
It's just some random. It just because about 40% of them for the year seem to be in April, and if there was anything behind that is all. But
I think it's just
happens. Just
also
is what it is.
The warmer weather starting. I mean, you'll see our calls for disorderlies and accidents because there are more cars and stuff and things like that, and calls will go up due to the warmer weather. But there's nothing. I mean, that is other than the ones that like to, that are the nuisance, I guess, individuals that there's not much we can do about. We've gotten to the point where one of them, anytime we get a call from, we're just taking them down to Barstow. He's mostly North Beach, but he does venture over to Chesapeake Beach. So.
Yeah, I know who you mean.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. Public Works Administrator's report. We've read Jay's report. Does the council have any questions of Jay? Mr. Greg?
Hey, Jay.
Good evening.
Let's add a couple comments. I know it looks like you're finished cleaning up on the tot lot in the ball field over there. Have we had anybody practicing baseball over there at all, or is it just kind of shut down over there?
And the crossover there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're there tonight. Like
Specifically baseball, but I'm just
that I can't answer to, but I know that the county is aware that it's open and ready to play.
Okay. I was walking the railway trail about a week or two back and then noticed some broken smoking receptacles. My only comments. Thanks.
Sure.
Mr. Larry?
A question, how are we coming on the slope restabilization on B Street there?
Not sure I understand the question.
Where we had the slope failure?
Yep.
We were having to stabilize that slope. Is that done? I know the boardwalk's open, but.
Right.
Okay.
So we have a few more tie-ins to do, that some residents that are under permit were under construction, and a couple more, but that's pretty much it as far as a stabilization. We have one area to clean up on the bottom end if it ever stops raining.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
Okie dokie. Code enforcement report. We've read, the council's read the report. Do we have any questions of Connie? Mr. Larry?
Connie, your report as always is very thorough. I guess my question to you is, in the summary report, the totals show for the year 48, 4 closed and 44 open.
Go ahead.
And yet when I go through the report, there are many more closed.
I think that you're not noticing the months that I'm putting in the criteria section of the report. If I included it all, you would have a book to go through.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to narrow down like a couple or 3 months at a time, like quarter, because if I keep, there are always going to be things that are open that have been open longer than 3 months, but I have to just kind of weed some of that out and move forward. So I think that the numbers kind of get skewed that way by the amount of time coverage I am qualifying the report by.
Okay, it just struck me when I looked
Yeah,
at the
I
summary
know
report.
exactly what you're talking about because I noticed it too, but it all has to do with dates.
Okay. All right.
Is that
thank
good?
you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Connie. I think this code enforcement program now we've been running about a year and a half with this or so.
About the software?
Yeah.
A little over a year.
I just wanted to ask you at this point, anything in particular that you wanted to say about the progress with the software or code enforcement in general, and any challenges that you may have with either?
I love the software. I can't imagine doing the job without it, not in today's era because there's so many things to keep track of. As long as you are diligent and putting your notes in, they're always there and they're not going to go anywhere. It's not like that you have to, and it's self-explanatory. You don't have to keep creating spreadsheets, that sort of thing. I just like the way that it calculates everything and puts everything in a place And it's there, like I say, forever. And I just am able then to take my report every month and download it to our scanning system. And rather than keeping on putting papers through the scanner all day long, it's all in that one Comcate report. So I really do like that. As far as code enforcement, I am continuing to learn a lot. We're getting very busy right now. I know you all know that we have several big things going on. But I'm also trying to take time to do some studying so that I can take a test to officially become a code enforcement inspector, and hopefully I'll get it done before we get into the rental program.
That's excellent.
Not that I want to do the inspecting, but I want to know that whoever's out there is doing what they're supposed to do.
Any particular cases that have unusual challenges for you, or they're all just kind of moving through and moving along?
We've got the one big thing going on right now, and I'd rather talk about that offline. I do have another large thing going on, and that just started in Bayview Hills, and we'll see how that moves forward. But it's with a homeowner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Connie. County Engineers Report. We've read Paul's report. Do we have any questions of Paul? Madam Vice President?
Hey, Paul. Just a few things. First, on the property on B Street that was purchased by the town, there was talk about putting a park in there or some sort of viewing. Has there been any movement on that at all?
Sketch. I'm not
I was
aware
just
of
wondering.
anything else.
Okay.
No.
All right, moving on. Last town council meeting, we discussed the Fishing Creek dredge like always. And I noticed in your report it said we have expressed to them our thoughts, meaning the Corps of Engineers, to review the alignment of the existing jetties, which we believe may enhance the flow of sediments out of the channel and reduce the need to dredge as often.
Correct.
First of all, thank you for mentioning that. You expressed it to them, but how did they reply?
So the project manager for the Corps of Engineers, who's overseeing the project, is not the actual engineer that's designing. So they have a consultant. I've talked to the consultant. They haven't done much on the project other than they've ordered their survey. So I don't know if you've seen them in town, but they have been down here doing some of their survey work, as well as DNR is doing the survey work as for us, for our little mini dredge. I expressed our concerns, your concerns, and the town's concerns. They didn't have much to respond to because I haven't looked into it, but they said that they would. I did send them an email laying it out. And as soon as they get their survey information back and they start running models, they'll let us know what they're finding and what they're thinking and how it's going to proceed.
So they're actually going to model it, and we'll be able to see
They're going to model it,
hydrologic flow and see if it would help in any way.
which they weren't going to do originally.
Thank you. They weren't going to do that. Thank you for pushing that.
So,
I think,
we'll at least get to see what the model says one way or the other. At
right,
this point,
right. Anything that would
right.
stop us from having to dredge quite so frequently
I'm
at
with
that
you
high
on that
cost
one.
would
I
be
feel like
really,
that's all we spend our time on sometimes.
really great. And finally, on Kellam's Marina regarding the piers, what are the benefits and the deficits or cons to a floating pier? Because I noticed that
So
they wanted to have us. Did they want us to have a floating pier, or did we want to have a floating
They.
pier?
Yes, we actually proposed a fixed pier to basically replace what's there, short and simple, and we can still do that. But the catch is with their funding, they, just like the state highway when they redo roads, they want to encourage ADA access. So the fixed pier, when the tide's down, you really have a very limited ADA access. So with the floating pier, obviously if it goes down, the boat can come up to it. If it's up, the boat can come up to it. And that doesn't always work. It isn't perfect, but it gives a better opportunity. So they highly encouraged for the money to do at least one. So we don't have to do all of it. I've been in contact with companies called Gator. They've done numerous ones in the area. They just did one down in the Wacomico River, which they sent me some pictures of, which I forwarded on. So I don't know, Jay. I mean, I've seen them. I've used them. I know I've been on them. I think it's fine. I don't think it's really going to be a big cost differential. And the state would like us to do at least for one of them.
We should make the state happy. I think it's a good
Because
idea.
we probably want more things from them down the
Probably.
road.
Would there be a benefit to doing both piers as a floating? Why not do both?
Well, I got it as an ad alternate.
Hmm?
When we bid it, I put it as an ad alternate to just do it all. So we don't have to decide today. I don't know if I really have an opinion either way. I was asking.
Unless
Jay,
there's
we
a
just-
con, you know, I mean, unless there's a reason to have a fixed pier, you know, I mean, like a different sort of rationale. It's just a thought. I mean, if we're going to do one, do them both. We don't have to do the piers again for a while, so
Right,
might as well do
yeah.
them properly.
And again, they just said one. We don't have to do them all, but we'll bid it both ways and see how the money comes out. Maybe that'll decide for us. I don't know.
Okay, that's all I had. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Just a comment to build on that. My experience has been that those floating piers are not as resilient as the fixed piers. They tend to get beaten up and worn out quicker than a fixed pier.
A little more maintenance and
Yeah.
a little less stable sometimes.
Yeah.
People are a little weary of them, but
Comment that I already mentioned to the mayor on the Fishing Creek Bridge. Might be nice to have State Highway schedule some kind of a ribbon cutting ceremony because the town's been through hell for the last couple of years. It'd be nice to celebrate the completion of that. And then just to add on to, and I know this just happened today, so on the water and sewer manual, council, you've all received the water and sewer manual now. I expect you, if you haven't finished reading it since I sent it this morning, I don't know what you're doing with your spare time, but anyway, that's going to be coming up in the future work sessions and council meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry, for that work. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
That's-
Yes, I do. I had a couple questions for Paul. I reviewed the council was forwarded a copy of the draft plan for the intersection up there at Richfield Station, and I looked at it, and it's a lot of changes there. There are a lot of work going into that. And I've got to ask you, because people are asking me, have you asked them about acceleration lane for that right turn on red during rush hour? I know would be a costly thing for them
I've
to
asked
do.
them, but they haven't given me a formal yes or no because it goes to TED. I don't know what I should say. It's a traffic engineering design group, and it's a very slow response to get things.
That's okay. I understand. I just had to
Yes,
ask you
we have
again.
asked.
Yeah, right. And my other comment was about the heritage. Some other things that have been going on in town and over the years related to the county inspecting here, various things. Your report says that let's see, ongoing meetings ensure that town staff is engaged through the grading and construction process. That's good. But has the county been involved in the grading over there and inspections? And how has their involvement gone? Are they helpful? Are they trying to get in the way?
They come periodically, but not very often. MDE comes more than that I've seen. I'm not there all the time, and Jay and County may have different, but I do talk to the MDE inspector every couple months and ask them if there are any issues. They haven't issued any violations in this year. New inspector, so last year I think they had one silt fence failure that I recall. I do get geotech reports. I just got a slew of them the other day from GTA. I go through those. They're pretty comprehensive. I'm more interested in the compaction and making sure that they're, tracking everything in properly. I'm not as focused on the MDE side of things,
Right.
but I'm to move forward with this because the project is launched. Everybody's noticed.
Now, they've had terrible weather.
And they really
Phase.
have. I have no other projects that's very similar, the same type of soil material, and it is very difficult to work. It's a diatomaceous soil, if any big term, but it's hard to work. They are meeting us Monday, so we're bringing a check, I'm told, to pay for their utility connection. So I think they're finally going to turn the key here, and I see a lot of activity starting to move up there.
Well, my question, my probe, if you will, is specifically regarding the county's involvement in critical inspections that they're required, and just really an overview. I'd like to know along the way how it's going with them, because ultimately I know that the county has to sign off on the grades. I guess the town is able to do that as well. Are we?
Well, we technically the county has the grading, okay, and the county has oversight for the roads and the storm drain. However, we have asked them, and they have put up bonds for grading as well. So they're really double bonded on some of those, specifically for the reasons I stated. In previous meeting before they had the start of the project, we told them when they got close to grade and when they got close to utilities that we were going to engage the county and make sure they're going to do it and ask for reports. Not that we want to sit out there every day, because certainly I don't have the time, nor do you want to pay me to sit out there every day. Jay didn't have time, and Connie, and they have paid the county to do this task anyway. This is part of the permits and inspection fee. It's a large fee. So Monday, one of the things that I'm going to bring up to them is to make sure that they are engaging the county and we're getting their reports. So right now I've only asked for the geotechnical reports because they haven't gotten to that level of the county yet. But I got to do that. I mean, I know what's happened at Richfield Station. I've seen it happen in some Bayview Hills, over the years in the past. So, anything we can do to avert that again, we're going to do it.
Ultimately, there could be some changes we may feel are prudent to our
Absolutely.
situation
And
down
I know
here,
Holly's
aside
been
from the
pushing
county.
down on inspections, trying to,
Okay, very good.
Stay
great,
tuned.
Great job, Paul. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Paul. Water Park report. We read it. If we have any questions, Holly could probably answer them, or we'll take it to Marilyn. Council, have any?
And just, it's more of a comment. And it's, my daughter's going through lifeguard training. And let me just say that the 13 modules from Ellis, the new Learning Zen, which is a series of online trainings, the week-long at the Northeast Community Center and the Aquatic Center, this whole training program, it's quite impressive. And I think the Learning Zen especially has been most effective. And just watching my daughter go through the amount of training that she has to in order to be a lifeguard at the water park, you can send your children there to go swimming with a high level of confidence that they'll be safe. And it's very impressive, the amount that they do to prepare these kids to have a job. And once again, the water park is no small operation. It's the 5th largest employer in Calvert County. This is a huge operation for a town of this size. And so it's pretty impressive. And so I just wanted to more or less let you know that the Learning Zen is pretty cool. And I don't know if we pay for it, but if we are, it's worth the money. Because the computer-based training is the way to go.
Thank you for the comment. Water Reclamation Treatment Plant report. We've read John's report. Do we have any questions, John? Eric?
Not a question, but a comment. So when we had the work session, we had a long discussion on alternatives. We're going to vote on a new piece of, or some new additions to the plant. And I just want to thank you for doing that work. I read, through your updates quite extensively, and I just wanted to thank you in preparation, for that vote. But I want to thank you for the work that you've done with that. That was impressive. Appreciate it.
Well, I figured that would give you a better idea with the pictures to kind of get an idea of what we're looking at. So.
Thanks, sir. Town Treasurer's report. Do we have any questions for Dale? Thank you, Dale. Town Administrator's report. Anything to highlight for the town, Howard? Do we? Okay. Mayor's report. Just a couple of things real quick. I mentioned earlier that I had the luxury on Friday to go up in Annapolis with the Lieutenant Governor and celebrate the young lady at Beach Elementary who won the contest. It was an honor. One of the things about a municipality, especially one of our size, is you're full circle here. That was an honor to do it. It was one of the it could have been the most fun day I have had as both mayor and town council in 23 years. I mean that sincerely. That was just a proud and fun moment. I also, attended the service for in the last month, the service for the two two people who perished in the fire. That was one of the low points of being an elected official. And in between, we also laid to rest former Mayor Donovan's granddaughter. That was an equally very, very sad low point of my time. So it's rewarding. You know, God is good. It's rewarding when you're really down like that, and then you get invited to go up to the governor's office and you see one of your own getting awarded, and that smile on that little girl's face is worth $1 million. It just really, it just shows you that this is what it is when you have a municipality. You get it all here, and that's all I really have to say. Next, I want to move on to vote on ordinance O-19-9, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach adopting the annual budget for the Water Park Fund of the Town of Chesapeake Beach for the fiscal year July 1, 2019 to June 30 of 2020.
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Next, vote on the ordinance O-19-10, an ordinance of the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach adopting the annual budget for the utility fund of the Town of Chesapeake Beach for the fiscal year July 1, 2019 to June 30 of 2020, and setting rates, charges, and fees related to water and sewer services by the town.
So moved.
Second.
Comment, sir?
Just for the record, as you review the water and sewer manual, we need to insert this new.
Yes, yes, indeed. Thank you, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Next, we have vote on an ordinance on O-19-11, an ordinance to the Town Council of Chesapeake Beach, Maryland, repealing Chapter 185, minimum livability, and enacting Chapter 162, Housing Code, to establish property maintenance standards for properties in the town and establish a rental licensing program incorporating regular inspections. I believe we're going to have an amendment. Well, first, is there a
Move to
motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
I move to amend based on earlier conversation during public comment, section 162-8, violation and penalties, based on attorney language, where it states each day a violation continues shall be a separate offense. And that is the second sentence in 162-8A.
That's the amendment, okay. Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
Okay, we'll be voting now on the amended. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, now we're back to the amended ordinance, okay, which we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Great job, council. That's long overdue. Great job, Connie. That's long overdue. Next, planning and zoning. There was a meeting held on May 8th. Jeff, you care to report on that meeting? Thanks for hanging out for
No
2
problem.
hours
Good
to
evening, Mayor,
report.
Council. I'll be brief tonight. We didn't make we've slowed down a little bit this last month in our work on the comprehensive plan, but it doesn't mean we've stopped. It's just we had a few things we were dealing with that kind of didn't with Chris and some personal things, but we're getting back on track with that. So we'll re-engage on the comprehensive plan this month and address it more thoroughly at our June meeting for planning and zoning. What we did do is I think I spoke with you, Mr. Mayor, and Holly earlier that week prior to our planning and zoning meeting. And one of the things we added to the agenda was we had a public hearing and kind of a public session to talk about a request that I think they approached the administrator about with regards to some changes to the parking lot behind Rollins. And I think it was brought up by Rollins itself. And so there wasn't really a plan before the planning and zoning or anything to review or necessarily approve, but it dealt with the fact that it had been opened back in 08 or closed by town council back in 08. So what I felt was kind of prudent at the time was just to understand where some of the community and the public felt with how those changes might impact both the shopping center and the residential streets back there. And it was a pretty spirited conversation that we had that evening. So I think I got a pretty good sense of some of the concerns and some of the concerns I think I had before I ever got there, but I felt it was worthwhile to understand what the operator of Rollins felt and hear them out, as well as understand how the residents felt. And I think we may put what I said I would do is the next meeting I'd have it on as an agenda item again, just for any other public comment. But there was nothing in front of the planning and zoning body to review or approve or necessarily make any recommendations. But I'd be happy to, if I can summarize some of that and send some written comments to you and the rest of town council. I just have not had a chance to do that yet.
When you get a chance, that'd be great, and we'll circulate it. Send it to
Yeah.
me, and Holly will circulate it.
But
to
it was, if you watch the
council.
video, it was a little spirited at times.
Yes, Madam Vice President.
Yeah, having attended that meeting, it was a bit spirited. One thing that I would request, though, and that is if any action is taken or recommended by planning and zoning, that much like in 2008, it would be in the form of an ordinance making a change, which would be opening it up. Because that way, based on public comment, I can vote no.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated issue.
It is a complicated issue. I just want to make sure that's
Yeah.
not a planning and zoning decision.
Right.
That just like in 08, it comes before town council for discussion, public hearing, and then vote.
Well,
no doubt about
If
that.
it ever gets that far.
Well, just
If it ever
speaking-
gets that far.
I would not take that on.
Speaking as mayor, I can guarantee that's going to happen. You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Just building on those comments about this proposal, I do not favor the proposal. However, I am sharing the concern of the residents that we ought to be looking at Mears Avenue and the entrance into the shopping center, particularly with the advent of the new parking garage, the expansion of Chesapeake Beach Resort. There's going to be traffic problems there. And we ought to be looking at whether there's anything that can be done to try to alleviate them.
I like to respond there because we've had a conversation on this, and I think that the chairman and I, had a conversation or kind of in agreement to terms of let's go ahead and let the bridge get built. Let's go ahead and let the turn lane, get done, and let's see how it works before we start anticipating problems, and then address it.
I understand.
To share the
That turn
conversation we
lane,
had.
I don't believe has anything to do with the problems of traffic entering and exiting the shopping center.
We'll see.
Saying.
We'll see. I've been going there a long time. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
No problem. Thank you.
Board of Appeals, no meeting. C-Box, Mr. Bacon.
Look out, I got a whole folder full here. First off, it turns out that the Outdoor Writers Association was afraid of a tornado, so we had the meeting inside when they came over at the end of April. Stars and Stripes, we're going to have a special painting of mini murals by several students. Please stop by and watch them paint. On June 1st, the 8th annual oyster transfer from Fishing Creek to the Old Rock Reef will happen at Abner's Boatyard. We need our normal bunch of 25 people to come for that. You probably saw at the bottom C-Box 2019 special project, quote, developing news. For the past 8 years, C-Box has been engaged in various projects that do not necessarily relate to oysters. They were the 5th grade education, the flower garden, the Osprey boxes and camera, trail signs, a community mural, and the bridge relocation. Each year, a new project just seems to come along. This year, a new one has just come along. 2 weeks ago, I was approached by Rosie DiMatteo from the Chesapeake Bay Marine Museum. She is the captain of the fully restored Edna E. Lockwood, an 1899 bug-eye oyster dredging boat. Edna is the last of the 600 bug-eyes, and bug-eyes preceded the Skipjacks. Rosie is taking the Edna on a fully sponsored tour by the National Park Service to towns along the Chesapeake. She wanted to see if I'd be interested in having the Edna come to the Chesapeake Beach for education of our students. You can guess what my answer was. The dates are October 1st through the 6th, 2019, and the location will be at the end of the T-Pier at the Rod and Reel. Ron Draper and I visited CBMM on Tuesday to continue with the details. We'll be working with Chesbacks to set up the student tours. The tour takes about 1 hour and centers on ship restoration and history of oyster harvesting in the Chesapeake Bay. Students and general public will be allowed on the boat, but there will be no organized sailings on that boat for students and the general public. General public tours can occur after school hours and on the weekend. I will be happy to set up a special time for the mayor, town council, and families if you'd like. Also one for the town staff. The library has already requested time slots for one or more of their programs. We may have one small sailing for very few people. This tour costs nothing because it's totally sponsored by the National Park Service. But I would like for Chesapeake Beach to do a lot of advertising and outreach to make it successful. I plan to have a welcoming ceremony as the Edna comes into port and also one as it leaves. This welcoming ceremony will include many of the charter captains and the fireboat. This is a one-shot opportunity as the Edna will be permanently located at CBMM after this tour. We'll be working in the next couple of weeks to finalize what we're doing. Here's a picture of the 85 feet long. Here's one for pass around with people on this side.
John, a question for you. John,
Yes.
you mentioned that this is going to tie up at the end of the Rod and Reel Pier. Has there been any discussions with the Rod and Reel about?
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you people about this because I really didn't want it to start leaking out
Yes,
piece at a time. We've already got that all set up
fine.
for the Rod and Reel. We've got other things set up with Chesbacks for the education program. We've got
I
a
asked
lot
this,
set up all right. I just wanted to make sure that facts didn't get leaked out like a lot of things get leaked out in this world.
and I asked this question because as many of you know, there were some discussions several months ago about Chesapeake Beach Resort acquiring a skipjack and having it there. And those, as far as I'm aware, didn't go anywhere, at least not from the town's perspective. So
Thank you.
thank you.
That
Thank you,
is
John.
that
Yep.
the skipjack Mini V is still a possibility.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Economic Development, Larry?
Just some updates. Reminder that we're continuing the ceremonies associated with the 125th anniversary. The next one will be a moonlight cruise on June 15th It'll be narrated by Dr. Eshelman, who'll talk about the history of steamboats on the bay. Should be very interesting. Been working, Hillary left, been working with the county. We're going to be having what's called the Beach Business Walk in the Twin Beaches towns. Number of members of the County Economic Development Advisory Commission, which I'm a member, are going to be here on Friday, June 21st to visit and talk to several selected business owners, basically, and asking them what can the county do to help further support your business. So I'll keep you all advised of that. We have started to sign up vendors for Taste the Beaches, which will be September 14th. As of right now, I think we've got something like 10 or 12 of them signed up already. And hopefully they'll be flowing in now that we've got everything online and be able to do it electronically. And I'll defer to my co-chair, Mr. Morris, on any update on 5G.
First of all, I'd like to say that I'm really looking forward to the Stars and Stripes weekend. It's going to be awesome. We hammered out a small cell aesthetic standards resolution between the towns, and we're going to take that to individual towns. And I think we're working that now to bring that forward for council discussion and in action soon. The more important aspect of the work group is regarding the 5G small cell infrastructure here in town, which the work group has put together a very short RFI of sorts that we're going to, those of us who are going to be attending MML over the summer, we're going to approach some of the key vendors there with the RFI and basically more information gathering on the whole thing. That's really where we're at with that. Yep.
Keith,
Yeah,
with the
thank
Twin
you.
Beach opiate.
So just a few updates. We have not had another meeting since our last town council meeting. So we continue to work with local churches, trying to set up an event with them. We will also be at the Stars and Stripes Festival with a table there giving out information. And in the back there, I put some cards, Maryland Crisis Connect, 211, and then press 1. And so this is for anyone who's having issues. If you or a family member or friend are dealing with depression, anxiety, or thoughts of suicide, or dealing with substance use disorders, this is a number you can call to get help. It's a number they set up in this last year, and I just wanted folks to be sure folks knew about that, and that resource is out there. And then, finally, I just wanted to again go over some of the numbers. So far this year in the beaches, there's been a total of 10 overdoses, 9 non-fatal and 1 fatal overdose. And in the larger Chesapeake Beach, North Beach zip code areas, that's 15 non-fatal and 1 fatal. So we continue to work. I have a report here from the sheriff's office. If anyone would like to see additional numbers for the county, I can give you that, and we'll try to get that up on on the website too. So thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Derek.
All right, thank you. Our group regular scheduled meeting on Monday of this week was postponed. The RFP for planning firm support to our group was issued this week. So we postponed our meeting to coincide with the RFP being out, so we could use our meeting time to look over the responses we get from that. So we plan to meet later in the month, again, to coincide with the RFP process. I want to thank particular Holly and Paul for a lot of work that they put into that to get that out. It's an impressive document. Between the last meeting and today, our group worked behind the scenes to prioritize. I mean, most of you by now, or all of you have seen our plans, but we prioritized them and redirected our presentation in a way to be a supplement to the RFP. So we included our vision in some of our specific projects in the RFP, so the firms have a good idea of what they're coming into and what they expect when they work with us. So, and I want to thank two of our members who are in the audience, Lori and Amanda, who have done fabulous work on that. So I want to thank them and the rest of our members who aren't here for their help on that. And then lastly, I want to ask if I could get a copy of the presentation that was made tonight, and if appropriate, could we put that on the website, and then we could let everyone know about the sidewalk as well. So that's it.
Thank you, sir. Okay. No unfinished business. New business. Council to consider the appointment of Jody Hoon-Star to the Board of Appeals.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any ayes have it? Hey, Lori. Council to consider the appointment to the zoning board.
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Comment?
Please. Is it comment or is it praise?
Actually, my comment is Jeff. I'm only going to vote yes if you allow me to share. You're going to share
Oh,
Lori
there we
with
go.
me. As long as you agree to that, I'll vote yes.
I thought the wonderful world of and we do have a volunteer party in the summertime, so we'll get you that date because we want you there. Okie dokie. Council to consider Psycho Corporation as the water park food supplier for the 2019 season at an estimated amount of $55,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council to consider the design and install of a sluice gate valve and safety catwalk in the influent well for the WRTP in amount not to exceed $25,000.
Approve.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any ayes have it? Council to consider awarding a contract to Southern Maryland Recycling in the amount of $57,305 for bulk trash services and tipping fees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any ayes have it? At this point in our meeting, we ask if there anybody in the public wants to come forward and make a comment. Hearing none, we'll. I can. Okay. I've got time to do that. Yeah, I'll let him, but I'll take care of it. I'll let him do it in the council lightning round. We'll start with the vice president.
Okay, yes, two things earlier. Someone came up to me with a request, and I'm not sure if it's doable or not, or we can wait. And it was for to consider putting a temporary stop sign coming out of the Rod and Reel and Railway Museum parking lot onto the east end of Mears Avenue. So you're coming from the water up Mears, just a temporary stop sign so that traffic stops along with C Street. And so it's just for temporary safety. That's my first comment. I'm not sure how that can be followed up upon, but it was a request. Secondly, End Hunger. I'm absolutely thrilled to say out of our $2,000 registration fee, we have gathered $1,920, so we're $80 to go. And we almost have a full boat. This is the last time I'll be mentioning End Hunger, because on June 8th, we'll be winning that trophy again, hopefully, with the Mayor's Cup. The Mayor's Cup normally happens around between 11:30 and 1:30. It's against the North Beach, and it's a wonderful time. So I really encourage you to all come out there. And Hunger is, again, that local organization that when you provide $1 of support, it not only buys $5 of food, or 5 pounds of food, excuse me, but it also, 93 cents of that dollar goes directly to programming. The remainder, the other 7 cents or 7% goes to overhead advertising. This is one of the best run organizations you can imagine, and the amount of people that it affects is astounding. And so being involved in one of the pantries, I see the Chesapeake Beach residents that come through that pantry on a bi-weekly basis. And we affect a lot of people, and we help a lot of people. So your support for this year's End Hunger would be greatly appreciated, and go Town of Chesapeake Beach.
Thank you. Mr. Larry.
I'll just build on that comment. I had a meeting up at North Beach Town Hall earlier today, and I was in their conference room, and the person I was meeting with made a point of pointing out the empty cabinet where the trophy in the past was and how it's going to return there. And I said, yeah, good luck with that. So I did want to share on Stars and Stripes Festival. It's a whole weekend of activities beginning on Saturday, the 25th, opening ceremony at 10 a.m. at Veterans Park. Sunday, the 26th, will be a whole day of activities starting at noon with a kiddie parade and other activities at 1 and goes till 6, and that's at Kellum's. And on Monday, back at Veterans Park, 10 o'clock for the actual Memorial Day ceremony. So I hope you all come. Thank you.
Keeping with the theme of the night earlier, I would urge everybody to thank a teacher. I also wanted to thank all of those who have contributed to make this another successful council meeting. Thank you.
I would like to thank Mark Topolsky from Maryland DNR for providing a very interesting presentation on horseshoe crabs this past Tuesday night as part of the Bayfront Park Nature Talk series. We had an enthusiastic crowd who were engaged and curious about horseshoe crabs, so that was nice. And for those who could not make it, if it's okay, we'd like to put his presentation up on the web for folks. And as soon as he gets that to us. And I do have a couple take homes from his presentation. May, June is horseshoe crab breeding season in this area. They lay their eggs on sandy beaches, so there's not too many places around here left for them. And they are most active during full moon high tides. And that happens to be this weekend. So there may be some breeding going on. So if you happen to come upon some horseshoe crabs that are stuck in the rocks along the bay or on their backs on local beaches, they would love a helping hand getting back into the water or they will die. So, and to that, they may look formidable, but they don't bite and they don't pinch. So it's safe to turn them over and give them a scoot into the water. Finally, there's not a lot of information available about their local distribution and movement. So DNR would love your help gathering this data. They have a mapping app and a website that you can use to report where and when you see horseshoe crabs spawning around the state. And so that, if you just go and Google the state of Maryland's volunteer angler surveys, that should come up and you scroll down and there'll be horseshoe crab spawning survey link. And you can go in there and just plug that information in for them. So, and I also want to thank the 20 volunteers and the town staff who came out on Saturday, April 27th to help the Bayfront Park cleanup. It was a great group and the largest we've had in 3 years. They collected, and I'm estimating because some of the trash was removed before we were done, but I think around 6 large trash bags full of debris, as well as a tire, boards with nails, sheet metal, and a trash can full of roofing shingles. So that really helped, clean up that bay, and we really appreciate, the park, and we really appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, well, it's become an annual tradition at this meeting. I get to be the one to thank everyone for all the hard work in passing the budgets. This is the 3rd year this group has passed all the budgets in May with a month to spare, and of course with little unnecessary fanfare. So it was a really good process this year. I want to thank Dale specifically because bringing you on, and we had a good process and you made it better. So thank you very much for that, and Holly and all the staff and everything. A lot of time and effort that goes into that, and I can speak for my colleagues and say that we're happy to give you guys the tools to continue to do your jobs so well as you do. So thank you to everyone for that process.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'll ask for a motion from the council to go into closed executive session following subsections of Maryland Anointed Code General Provision Article 3-305B to obtain legal advice.
Second.
Let's do it. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's do it. This is basically the end of the meeting, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go into closed section and then go home. Please. It's okay with me. Yeah. Yeah. You didn't have to Motion to close the closed session. All in favor? Aye. Is there a motion to adjourn? The second, all in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. This is kind of like